I'm back. I'm going to move real quickly through a couple of other things and then get you to Chris, who will talk about ROZ and community service tax credits. One of the other things that we do in Commerce is we work to assist Kansas companies in accessing international markets and also work on international recruitment. One of the tools that we have to help Kansas companies in that effort to get into the international market is called the Kansas International Trade Show Assistance Program, or KITSAP. And the purpose of this is to help introduce Kansas companies to foreign markets by assisting them in participation in an international trade show. Eligibility, these are companies whose products or services originate in Kansas or where there's substantial value-added processing in Kansas. We look at, the report for this goes to shows that they'll be at for the first time, or that where a certain product or technology that this company offers is being introduced in the market for the first time. And then they must apply before they actually go to the show and be approved for funding. What the benefit to the company is we can help offset some of the cost of traveling to that show with booth rental and some of those other direct costs related to an international trade show, with a limit of $3,500 per trade show event. And then an individual company is limited to $7,000 in total combined assistance during a state fiscal year. The idea is that this is not a large fund, and we're trying to assist as many companies as we can, so there are some limits on the amount of funding that they get. But again, this is very helpful for particularly small to mid-sized companies who are trying to get into a new market. Another program that we have, and these are federal funds that Commerce administers, and again, this applies our place in the world in terms of CDBG is in the smaller rural communities. The larger communities, the metro communities, as you say, receive money directly, so we have no bearing or no involvement with them. But the rest of the funds that come to the state of Kansas for community development block grant purposes flow through and are administered by Commerce. There are a number of different criteria, a number of different programs. The primary criteria is that these projects are to benefit low to moderate income folks. And they also have a particular focus on situations where there's blight or slum conditions that can be eliminated. And we also have a piece of this that can come into play when there's been a natural disaster such as a tornado or a flood, where some funds can come in to help the community get back up on its feet, primarily for some of that public infrastructure that might have been damaged in that kind of a disaster. These are some of the different program areas. Categories of funding. We have a competitive round annually for three of the main components, which are water and sewer projects, community facilities, and housing rehab. There's also a component for economic development that can allow us to help a community help a company. Actually, the money would flow through Commerce to the community, and then they would grant and or loan in combination monies to the company to meet a variety of different needs. It can be used for infrastructure, land, fixed asset, working capital financing, etc. There are some criteria that are involved that are established by the feds that we reinforce, but this can be helpful for a number of companies. Again, urgent need. It addresses threats to health and safety from sudden severe emergencies. Primarily where you see that would come like if the city sewer system had been knocked out by a storm, or if you had electrical delivery problems or different kinds of problems like that that would impact the community. We can help assist the community on a pretty quick term basis, get back up and on their feet. CanStep is a variation of the CDBG kind of approach, and what it is really a self-help program for water, sewer, and public building projects in smaller communities. And in this program, what we do is we provide the funding to do the engineering, to do the study, the actual funding for the materials that would go into the project, and then the community, their stake in it, in addition to involvement and working with us along the way, is that they actually provide local volunteer labor to do a lot of the work. And this way, a smaller community that maybe has a sewer or water need or issue can address it where maybe they don't have the money to actually go forth and do it on their own, in this kind of a partnering effort where we're providing the funding for the actual materials and they're providing the labor. It can work very well, and there have been a number of these done over the years. just before I turn it over to Chris, the amount of funding that we get from CDBG has bounces around a little bit, but it's been declining over time. I think in fiscal year 2012, and this is a federal fiscal year because these are federal monies, we got $13.6 million. It bounced up a little bit for this current fiscal year. We're still in fiscal year 13 on the federal fiscal calendar. And as far as next year, we've not received or don't know for sure what the allocation is going to be. We anticipate with all the budget issues at the federal level, it will be lower, probably somewhere in the $12.5 to $13 million range. But again, this is a program that's been ongoing for a number of years, and this is HUD money that comes in. And about half of the money goes to water and sewer projects, and then the rest is kind of divvied out over a number of other projects. And a lot of the information on where the projects are, et cetera, is information that you can find on our website for past year projects. So that was very, very brief, but Chris?
Sorry, Steve. All right. Thank you, Steve. My name is Chris Harris. I've met some of you. I hope to meet all of you at a certain point. I'm going to be talking about the Rural Opportunity Zones Program, the Community Service Tax Credit Program, and of course any questions you may have about it, I'm happy to answer. I also manage the Angel Investor Tax Credit Program. It's not on the agenda. I promise to keep my comments brief and be the last speaker. So I know all of you wanted a very long PowerPoint after a long weekend. I know I did. So first, I'd like to start with the Rural Opportunity Zones Program. Many of you are probably familiar with this program. It's designed to incentivize individuals or provide incentives to individuals that want to or do move into rural Kansas. It's designed to address an out-migration issue that has, as many of you know, affected rural Kansas for decades. This map that you see right here is actually current as of, well, August. You see there's two kind of color coding here. There's the yellow, which indicates the counties that were either in the original legislation or in the 23 county expansion that recently passed. And by default, each of those counties can offer the tax incentive, and that's a tax credit for your entire Kansas income tax liability for up to how many years you live in the county up till 2017. The stars indicate the counties that are participating in the student loan repayment program, and they must pass a resolution in order to participate. And that's paid half by the county and half by the state. Now this, I said it was current as of August. In the last 2 weeks, we've also received resolutions from Rice, Stevens, Morrison, Donovan, and Ottawa County. And I expect that there will be quite a few more coming in the next several weeks. So we've been very excited about the progress that the 23 counties that have been added are making. And there were a few counties that were holdouts in the original 50 list, and they are actually considering passing resolutions. And so we've been very pleased with the participation from the counties. As I mentioned, there are two incentives: the student loan repayment of up to $15,000 paid out over the course of 5 years, and that is based on their outstanding student loan balance, paid out 20% of their maximum eligible balance per year, and of course the income tax credit for up to 5 years. It was up to 5 years. Now it's till 2017, so fewer than 5. The stats I'm going to give you specifically refer to the student loan repayment. The income tax incentive is managed by the Department of Revenue in a manner similar to the other tax credits, and so there's a lag on that information, and we're still getting some of that. Dan has gotten some information from the Department of Revenue as to how many have used that. We can provide that here as a follow-up. But specifically talking about the student loan repayment program, we've actually been very excited about the response that we've seen to this program. As many of you know, there were no other kind of peer programs that we could compare this to. We were the only state that proposed and passed a program like this, and there are no other states that have passed one since. There have been states that have proposed or have talked about doing it, but none have actually done it. There are some municipalities that have done a similar program. The city of Niagara Falls in New York does a very limited scope, targeted program for entrepreneurs in their city. We've actually been featured in some articles. ABC News did a piece about Niagara Falls and Kansas. My impression has been that because it's so limited in scope, they've had fewer people take advantage of it. This program, in order to qualify for the student loan repayment program, you must have a degree, you must have a student loan balance, and you must move to a participating county. So it is very inclusive as opposed to exclusive. And the idea is to bring a diverse group of people back to these counties that can contribute in multiple ways. Since we started taking applications in July of 2011, we've received 970 in total, and that's already out of date. We've received a few more since this slide was put together. And what I'm particularly proud of is that we've had very good outreach to people living outside the state. 309 of those applications have come from people living outside the state. And in fact, you would think that they would only be the border states, Missouri, Colorado, Nebraska, and Oklahoma, but that's not entirely true. We've received applications from 41 different states, and the top 5 states, if I give me a moment to list them here, are Nebraska with 43, Colorado with 42, Missouri with 26, Texas with 19, and California and Oklahoma tied with 10. And so we've been that's surprising to me that the diversity of the out-of-state applicants that we've received. As part of this program, one of the questions I consistently want to address, and it's a fair and good question, is how important is ROZ to a person's decision to move to a rural Kansas county? And it's not a question that's entirely easy to answer. So one of the best ways we can do that is to ask them. Usually people are fairly honest. They're required to tell us how important ROZ was of a factor in their decision. And starting from the left, those are those that say it's the most important factor in the decision. The next 2 columns are those that say it was very important or important. We offer them a space to provide notes as to their decision. And a lot of them, a common refrain is that they had been thinking about it for a while. Maybe they had family or friends or rural roots in the area. ROZ gave them a reason to move from thinking about it to actually doing it. And that's where it's most effective. We also track the income of those that come into the program, come into these counties. As you would expect of someone who is a recent college graduate living in a rural Kansas county, most of them earn between $30,000 and $50,000 a year, and as one would expect. That's the 5-minute version of ROZ. I could talk a lot longer. So I'm going to move on to Community Service Tax Credit. It's a program through which we award, through a competitive process, tax credits to nonprofits doing projects in healthcare services, community services, and non-governmental crime prevention. It's a tool by which these nonprofits can then turn and go to their potential donors and offer them a donation in exchange for offer them a tax credit in exchange for a donation for their unique project. We get $4.13 million in tax credits allocated to this program annually. We receive far more in requests than we can actually award through that program, usually about $16 million in requests. And we have a very thorough process that we follow to decide who gets them. It's very focused on established criteria, and we look at the merits of the project. Typical projects could be hospitals, rural critical access clinics, could be shelters for abused women. It could be anything and everything. It's a very diverse applicant pool and a very diverse group of awards that we make every year. This map right here, it works in both urban and rural areas. The yellow stars are the projects we awarded in the last round that closed last summer. The blue, well, it's not blue on this slide, but they are blue on my screen. Those are the projects we awarded this summer. So we enjoy a very broad geographic diversity for this program, and it has been a very effective tool. A few stats to back that up. Since the program started in 1994, $75 million in tax credits have been awarded, which has helped generate $108 million in funding. And that was current as of last year. And it will always generate more in funding than is awarded in tax credits because it's a 50% credit in an urban area and a 70% credit in a rural area. So it's very effective at facilitating these campaigns. One thing I'm particularly proud of, since 1995, $6.5 million in tax credits have come into the state by way of donations from donors living or based outside the state of Kansas. And those donations have helped fund quite a bit. This is only since 2006 because I kind of got tired of counting. And these are the projects that we've funded since then: 7 health clinics, 57 hospital expansions, 7 mental health facilities, and so on. And then 44 miscellaneous that I couldn't categorize. What I'm trying to show here, it's an effective tool. It works, and both donors and nonprofits understand how it works. And that has meant it has gotten more competitive. What you see here, the total column there shows the number of applications we received in that calendar year, or that competition year. That has gone up, 42 to 74, 73, and 65. What has also gone up is that middle portion there. It looks black on your screen, but we always receive applications from those that were denied in the previous year or two, and they can be awarded additional points if they make refinements to their project or to their application. Well, that has increased over the last few years, which has put strong pressure on the program, and we've started awarding more applications but doing low total award amounts in order to accomplish that. Again, a very effective program, one we like managing and continuing to offer. So.